and welcome back to Jola Speaks. Thank you once again for joining me today. Today is the day the Lord has made. Let's always remember and cultivate the habit of asking God, what will you have me do today? So we can indeed do God's plan, and work in obedience with Him every single day. Today we're going to discuss David and Shimei. Shimei was an interesting character in the Bible, and we're going to discuss how Shimei insulted David, but then David was not listening to the insults, right? He was somehow perhaps hearing God's words despite the insult. And that's why today we've titled it, God can use anybody, right? God can use anybody, right? Even through, in this case, I would say very strong criticism as well. And God can work in a very unexpected way. So I'm going to read from 2 Samuel. I'll read chapter 16, verses 5 to 13. So I go, as King David approached Bahurim, a man from the same clan as Saul's family came out from here. His name was Shimei, son of Gera, and he cursed as he came out. He pelted David and all the king's officials with stones, though all the troops and the special guards were on David's right and left. As he cursed, Shimei said, Get out, you murderer, you scoundrel. The Lord has repaid you for the blood you shed on the household of Saul, in whose place you had reigned. The Lord has given this kingdom to your son, Absalom. You have come to ruin because you are a murderer. Then Abishai, son of Zeruiah, said to the king, Why should this dead dog curse you, the Lord? Curse you, my lord the king. Let me go over there and cut off his head. But the king said, What does this have to do with you? You sons of Zeruiah, if he is cursing because the Lord said him to, let him. Who can ask, why do you do this? David then said to Abishai and all his officials, My son, my own flesh and blood, is trying to kill me. How much more this Benjamite? Leave him alone, let him curse, for the Lord has told him to. It may be that the Lord would look upon my misery and restore me to his covenant blessing instead of his curse today. So David and his men continued along the road, while Shimei was going around along the hillside opposite him, cursing as he went, and throwing stones at him, and showering him with dirt. The king and his people and people with him arrived at the destination exhausted, and he refreshed himself. And so this is Shimei, this is the guy from the house of Saul. And you see, people usually, there's a lot of time where people hit you when you were very down. Here, David was in a very low moment. His son was trying to kill him, take over the throne. He had run away from his throne and ran, with a huge crowd. Despite all the security he had, he was running from his child. And then as he was going, one guy from the house of Saul now used that as a way to, or an opportunity to go and attack and insult David. The guy didn't even fear for his life. The guy didn't even fear for his life. He was going to insult David because he felt David had taken the kingdom from Saul, etc. And so this guy started to curse David and curse in front of his officials. Everybody. It was so embarrassing. And David could sense, that in the midst of what he was saying, God was speaking. In the midst of insults, the frustration, the embarrassment, the annoyance, the stones being thrown at them, he could sense that, wow, God was speaking in a way through him. And so beyond the cause of this angry Shimei, he could see that actually, I would just submit to God's will and purpose, regarding what's happening in my life right now. And perhaps, as he's insulting him, because yes, that's the fact, he did murder Uriah, that's which brought about all these things happening to David, because he went to take Bathsheba from him and to cover up his sin of adultery. But then perhaps he was thinking, maybe God was trying to correct him. Yes, the guy was wrong, because a lot of what the guy said was not correct, But then he still took it and said, you know what, God, maybe God is trying to correct me through this guy. If I even said in many cases that, oh, well, perhaps God is speaking through him, let him be. Let him be. Don't touch him. Don't hurt him. Let him speak. And he took that correction, and continued to submit to God's will for his life. And this was the time where he kept hoping and praying for God's mercy and goodness. Because, earlier, before his son killed the other son, his daughter got raped. So many things that happened in his family after the whole Uriah incident. The child died. And so I just say he was still in that place of, of continuing to seek the mercy and goodness of God. And which is why he's probably fearful for his life and ran away from the throne because he's not sure what's going to happen. But he just shows me here that you see, God speaks in many unexpected ways. Like, who would have thought God would have been speaking through Shimei? Who would have thought God would have been correcting David through Shimei? Because what Shimei said was nonsense. It was mostly false, right? But there were some things that he said that David knew that if people around him not know, or people around him could not see how this was God speaking. But David knew that this is God talking to me. This is God speaking to me. And let me take heed to the correction and the words that are being said. We all experience criticism every single day. A lot of times, what makes it worse is how it's been said. There are ways to deliver criticism in a very kind way that people are, very receptive to such, words. And there are ways to deliver that is horrible, awful, and so painful to experience. Right? Here was painful. Here was an embarrassing situation. Here was a very frustrating situation. Like, oh my God, like, how can someone embarrass me, king of Israel? I'm walking around. I have not done anything to this guy. This guy just literally just throwing stones at me and insulting me and all my men, my whole convoy. There are so many people, and they didn't say anything. If someone was looking at that, some person would think, oh, probably because he's guilty or what this guy is saying. But actually, that was not true, because he wasn't guilty for a lot of what he said, but he refused to retaliate or do anything to the guy. He listened through and cutting out all the words being said and heard, the correction God was giving to him at that point in time. Perhaps that was it. When we get such awful criticism, what do we do with it? Quite recently, I got some horrific, I won't say horrific, but very painful criticism. The way it was delivered was awful. It was very, very awful. It was unexpected. It was very embarrassing. Because a lot of people there, and people I didn't even know, in many cases, people I met for the first time, and it was delivered, right? And obviously for the first couple of days, I was just like, so embarrassed and trying to literally, because when it happened, I didn't even say a word. I didn't utter a word. I was shocked. It's like, how can this person do this? And after, going through the whole process over and over again, and trying to ensure that I am healed, I'm healing from the pain and the embarrassment that was caused and the sin that was made as well. I got to ask myself, Jola, is this what, this person, is it true? Is it right? What parts are true? What parts should I ignore? Yes, the words would have been cruel and painful to hear, but what areas are true? What areas should I learn from? What area should I focus on? Take that, as the blessing from the criticism. I take that, no, this one I will take it and I'll pray about this. I would, make amends. I'll do what I need to do about it, and I will ignore those areas, that are not true. Perhaps the person, obviously thought, the person didn't know me so well, person probably thought things that were not true. And they are. People misinterpret, people criticize as they please. They don't know, they just say things, right? And it helped me just get the real truth and the blessing. So even though it was a very annoying and painful and embarrassing experience, I, personally, I got what I needed from it. And I took it on board. Right. Now,
The person may have had a different intention. I don't know. But at least I took the blessing I needed to take from that. And it was good for me to hear God speaking through the person, despite all the things that were said and how it happened. Literally, I had to sift through everything to hear. And so God can use anything. God can speak in the most ridiculous of ways. God can. And so it's important that we don't just, totally disregard criticism. No. Let's take on what it was said. Let's go through it so we can get the blessing from that particular experience. Get a blessing from that actual, way they criticized us or the way, it was said. But there's something there, just check. Don't just discard the whole thing. Just check to see if there's something. When I say something to me here, there's something I need to change here. Just take that, and then use that for your own benefit. Because at the end of the day, right? It was a blessing there. You want that blessing and you want to use it, If there's a correction there, or if there's something that will help you be better there, that is for your own good. Take that part, and ignore and disregard the ones that, are not for you. So I will stop here today. I see we've learned a lot from David again, of how David, just ignored a man that was hailing insults to him, knowing that he was hearing another voice, another man's voice, hearing God's, God's correction and submitting to God's will, for his life. I stop there. Thank you for listening to me today, and God bless you and you and you. Bye.